What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into another Celtics Talk Weekly Post Game Show. The music
isn't rolling as
music
heavy.
does not get to roll tonight, guys. The Boston Celtics comeback attempt falls just shy in Indiana tonight, 135 to 132. The Celtics falling and dropping their first game of the season. 4-1 on the year for the Celtics, guys. Indiana finally picks up that win they've been searching for. They're 2-3. A lot to talk about, guys. Obviously, welcome in to the show with me, my co-host Nick Franco, and a writer for Celtics Talk Weekly blog, David. David, thanks for coming on. Franco, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on. David, your initial thoughts, reactions, and takeaways for tonight's game.
Yeah, so I cringe to use the term moral victory because I think that that's a term that the Celtics should not settle for, and that we should be using more for our friends with the New England Patriots. But
Right.
I think that's just as close as a moral victory as it gets, especially for the Celtics early in the year. This is a game we really had no business winning, and honestly, as I think we can all agree, we're pretty lucky to get into overtime in this one. We were just a step slow the whole night. And I didn't hate the way we were playing offensively. It's just every time we were basically banking on the fact that we were going to make our shots like we've been doing so far all this season. The Pacers wouldn't be able to keep up with that. But when we missed our shots, the Pacers ran in transition, and that really screwed us. So, we'll get into this obviously a little bit later, but the Pacers definitely gave us a gift when they stopped running and slowed down their offense. That's what kind of let us back in. Went on that 33-12 run to force overtime. But yeah, a good effort. Can't win them all. But Pacers got the best of us tonight.
Yeah, first loss of the season coming from the Pacers is they were the team that we faced in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and I believe that they are going to be one of the more competitive teams. Everyone likes to go with the higher echelon teams, the bigger brand name teams like the New York, the Philadelphias, the more recognizable face teams. But I feel like teams like the Pacers are going to be the team that are going to be more of the kryptonite towards the Celtics, if there is one to exist. The Pacers almost have a perfect roster to compete against the Celtics with Siakam, and I think they did a phenomenal job of just doing what they do best, and that's just torching with offensive efficiency. And the Celtics know, as we saw during the Eastern Conference Finals last year, if you don't bring your A game to the Pacers, they're going to give you trouble. And it seems like the Celtics just have the foot on the gas, and then during the fourth quarter was just a little bit too late.
Yeah, I think you guys kind of hit the nail on the head right there. Tonight, the Celtics had no business playing in overtime against Indiana. They got absolutely washed off the floor through three quarters, out hustled. The Celtics' weakness with Porzingis out was on full display tonight. 62 points in the paint for the Indiana Pacers. Mazzulla in that fourth quarter made the adjustment to go with Neemias Queta, and I think they saw some production on the defensive end, for them. However, you lost some of that spacing. We're going to get into a lot tonight. Briefly, I didn't love the shot selections from particular players tonight, especially in key crucial moments. I thought we kind of dropped the ball there. Indiana was fouling heavily when we were going to the paint tonight. 26 fouls for Indiana. They were not able to keep Boston off their line and away from the rim, and Boston steered away from that. So, don't love it. But tonight, let's talk about the player of the game, guys. Your SeatGeek player of the game yet again is Jason Tatum. Now, guys, again, I've said it before. The season is finally back, and the Celtics are the hot ticket right now in the Boston area. Guys, if you're looking to go to any live sporting event or any live event, use SeatGeek. Guys, at checkout, use code Celtics Weekly for $20 off your first purchase. They have a phenomenal system that they use that shows you whether or not the ticket is valuable. Green being very valuable, and red saying to stay away and avoid those tickets. Alongside that, they show you a great view of what your view looks like at the seat, guys. We are very excited this season to be sponsored by SeatGeek. Guys, Jason Tatum tonight, 37 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals, 28% from behind the line, guys. Jason Tatum, he took 17 threes tonight. Now, when you look at how productive Jason Tatum has been to start this year, David, what did you most get out of this game from Jason Tatum?
I'm muted. Sorry. I think the story of Tatum's career has been, rolling with the punches. Like, people give him a lot of hate for shooting tour dates, or if you will. I mean, this honestly is no different if you're looking at the stat line: 10 of 25 from the field, 5 of 18 for three. But I just love how he keeps rolling with the punches. The playmaking, only 4 assists, but I thought his playmaking and potential assists was great. Obviously led all scores. I think that a couple things that could be some pressure points, not to be too negative, are the free throws. Obviously, he had a crucial missed free throw in overtime. It seems a little bit spotty with the free throw shooting to begin the year. I mean, again, it's only 5 games, so that might be something to look out for. And the 3-point shooting has kind of dipped out since the first night, but Tatum led the way. I love the way that he picked on Halliburton in that matchup in overtime to get to the line. Very explosive when he drives to the hole, as we know. And for him to put up 37 points in a performance like this, where it's just a rough, sluggish night all around, I mean, I think Jason Tatum is in that echelon of players that just are able to find a way to, keep producing and keep getting it done. And he gave us 43 minutes tonight, which was great.
Right.
And, even though, again, he went through these inconsistencies tonight, I still think it was a great performance from him.
It was a weird Jason Tatum game, in my opinion. He was so dominant, yet so inefficient. And when you are Jason Tatum and you are playing against the Indiana Pacers, there truly is nobody who can keep you out of that paint. And I'm sorry, I was wrong. He did not shoot 17 threes, guys. He took 18 threes tonight, which is a number that in no world should Jason Tatum ever be touching. Even when you see Steph Curry shoot 18 threes, you're like, wow, 18 threes, that's a lot. And for him to shoot that volume of from behind the arc, it's only going to go down. We talk about Jason Tatum being a volume scorer, right? The more he shoots, the odds are the lower the percentage is going to get, just from the type of player he is, the play style he is, right? We saw guys like Kobe and Jordan. We've seen it before. It's not a knock. It's just kind of who he is as a player. When Tatum is taking these threes, and I think he took 4 in overtime, over 4 from behind the arc in OT. He was bailing the defense out, Franco, right? And when Tatum is taking those threes against smaller guys like Tyrese Halliburton, it's allowing for the other team to have just another shot against Boston, just a puncher's chance against them. So tonight, when you see Tatum's 3-point attempts, what is your thought on that? Where are you at with Jason Tatum and kind of just the sheer volume we're seeing from him?
Well, Jason Tatum is playing finally human after all. I mean, he was shooting outstanding for the first 4 games of the season, and he has been playing in the driver's seat of the Celtics team, as he deservedly belongs to. When he's taking those 3-point shots, that's a 6'10" body out of the paint, especially with Kristaps Porzingis and the lack of paint defense that the Celtics were able to put up against the Pacers. That is something that he needs to be able to find that variety within his game and start to play more of the 4 position than the wing position, if that makes sense. I think when he has those smaller matchups, those are things that he needs to be able to recognize and take advantage of. And that also leaves other opportunities for the team. But obviously, we knew that Tatum was going to eventually going to have one of these nights where the shots weren't falling, and
Right.
he just needs to learn how to recognize that earlier.
I mean, when you look at Jason Tatum's shot chart tonight, he took 18 threes and 25 total field goals. So that means from 2, he was 5 of 7. And he got to the line 50. He took 15 free throws. So you mean to tell me that you're only taking 7 twos and you're getting to the line for an opportunity to make 15 extra? They were fouling him. He was getting the whistle when he was going inside. And it was very frustrating for me. And again, 37 points, 8 rebounds. I mean, he had a good game, 4 steals. He played good defense. But when you talk about execution, and, obviously you want to see Boston execute, right? This loss isn't the end of the world. But I mean, you want to see them do the right things in high pressure moments on the road, especially tonight. Take what the defense has given you, Tatum. You're getting the whistle. So many times you see Jason Tatum frustrated and upset and throwing his arms and he's not getting the whistle. Tonight, you were getting the whistle and you were bailing the other team out by settling for threes, David. I mean, am I off, or do you think that's kind of what happened?
No, I agree. And I was going to bring up the point where what I think Tatum was phenomenal at last year, and I think the analytics supported his posting up. He was one of the
Right.
best post up players in the league last year, and that was one of the big benefits we got from bringing Sam Cassell into the coaching staff, is because he pushed Tatum to get more in the post. Like the stats were there. The points per possession were great for Tatum in the post, and he would go to the line so much from the post. I wish we would see more of that. You don't want to jump the gun with any of this, and we're still all
Right.
riding high from this epic start to the season, and obviously the championship last June. But and I hope I'm not speaking out of term, and I don't want to jump the gun with this, but it feels like we're kind of going back to this early days of Missoula ball, where when he first came in, it's just 3-3-3-3-3s and beat teams with our 3-point shooting, which is great. Early days of Missoula ball were fun as well a couple seasons ago, but there's got to be a balance. And it's funny, we all joke like, oh, we shot 61 threes in the opener and we won. Like, yeah, that's funny and all, and like when you win, no one cares. But we're consistently shooting over 50, 55 threes a game to start the season. I think we just got to get that number a little bit more down. But
Right. Well, and I do think, David, I think for me, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say. It's less so the number and more so the quality, right? And like with Boston, the weird dynamic with them, right? And you got to commit, right? You're not going to be able to keep Boston off the 3-point line and outside the paint. It's just a task that no one can keep up with. There's too much talent around the perimeter with the C's. Tonight, Indiana committed to keeping Boston off the 3-point line. We're going to have you take tough threes, and we're okay if you get into the paint. You have to have the knowledge in be aware of the situation to say, okay, the defense is giving us the 2 tonight. Right? If Indiana was packing the paint, let them fly, shoot the threes, right? We've proven that we can hit them at a high clip when the team is, keeping us out of the paint. But when they're committing to guard the 3-point line, you're playing into the other team's hands. So while I disagree with you in a sense where it's old school Missoula ball, I think there's a little bit, more like cohesiveness in it. I do, in a sense, think that game by game, you have to play to what the defense gives you. There shouldn't be a set number of threes, right? It shouldn't be like 50 and under I want to see. It's what is the defense giving you? And tonight, Indiana, statistically and through the eye test, was allowing Boston to get into the paint. And when they were getting into the paint, they were fouling them. So I just think a poor execution from Boston. They just completely, avoided what the defense gave them tonight.
And it was almost like it was what the Pacers had to do to beat the Celtics during the Eastern Conference Finals, and it was the things that they were utilizing during their playoff run. I think that they're high intensity, they're a very fast, very young, and they're one of the few teams in the NBA right now that on a given night can have a shooting performance that could potentially outshoot the Boston Celtics. And I think being able to match that intensity or being able to counteract that, being able to play the game at their speed is something that the Celtics need to be able to do because there's as the Celtics are the best team in the NBA right now, there is nothing that there's no reason why the Celtics shouldn't be setting the table for what the game looks like.
Right. And that's kind of like and it's weird, right? Because when you look at what happened last season, a lot of throughout the regular season, you saw Boston kind of fall into the same habits we saw tonight, right? They shot a lot of threes, they bailed the defense out, right? But like in reality, when the playoffs hit, they weren't doing that. So it's like these problems, and tonight in particular, it's like I'm not worried that this is going to show up in the playoffs and the Celtics are just not going to go to the paint and they're going to chuck up through. I'm not worried about that. But again, I've said this, and I'm going to be a broken record on this tonight. Boston has a unique opportunity here to win a lot of basketball games and, get some historic pace going. And it's a little frustrating. And Indiana's a phenomenal team, and they got off to a bumpy start, but they're going to expect to see them again in the playoffs this year, making a real push, especially with how Siakam's been playing for them, and Halliburton will figure it out. It's a little frustrating to see them settle. And tonight, you talk about settling. We do have to mention Jaylen Brown. Just a bad offensive Jaylen Brown game. And it looks like he hasn't had that go-to mid-range shot at his disposal that he makes at such a high clip throughout his career. Guys, 11 for 30 from Jaylen Brown. Now, 2 notes here. You hardly see Jaylen Brown reach that shot total. You never see him take that many shots, and you hardly ever see Jaylen Brown shoot so inefficiently, David. What was it about JB tonight that was kind of an outlier game for him?
Yeah, just an off game for him. I'm looking at the numbers too. 11 for 30, as you said, 1 for 11 from 3, 3 turnovers, 4 fouls. Just a rough game. He had that good second half on Monday night against the Bucks, but I would say the Washington and Detroit game and this game, he's just been shooting kind of sloppily. Again, no cause for concern.
Right.
If I remember correctly, last season he got off to a bit of a rough start shooting.
Right.
Yeah, just I don't honestly have any problems with the shot selection. It wasn't nightmares overtime for him, unfortunately, with the early turnover, the missed 3 at the end, and I think he gave up a bad foul at some point. But yeah, just a rough game for him. Probably just hopefully he can just get out of this spurt.
Right. I think here's my problem. This team, Franco, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this, right? This team, the Celtics, are too good to have their top players feel the need to force everything, right?
Right.
Some days there's going to be days where Jaylen Brown's that dude, and there's going to be a lot more days where JB's that dude versus when he isn't that dude, right? Same goes for Tatum. But on those days where you don't got it and you're not that dude, you got to, steer to Holiday, steer to White, steer to Pritchard. White had it tonight. Pritchard kind of had it tonight. I thought his shot selection was iffy, but Franco, for you, at what point are you, when you're Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and we get it, right? They're on this revenge tour. They were disrespected, right? But at what point are you kind of like looking at them and you're like, okay, let's take a step back. We get it. It doesn't have to be, we're not the Mavericks, right? Luka doesn't need to shoot. These guys don't need to shoot 40 shots for us to have a chance. They, we play within the offense, and it felt like they steered away from that tonight, Franco.
That's something that is kind of the controversial point with the JB and JT is when they are playing within the flow of their team, they do not feel the independent attention that they should be getting, but when they think that it's going to be more of the ball in their hands hero ball, it's not going to work out. The Celtics are a team that needs to be formed around chemistry and feeling out the hot hands. It's a luxury to have 4 to 5 players on this roster that are going to be in an all-star
Right.
contention and being front.
Did we lose him?
Might have lost him.
Yeah, we think we lost him. All right, that's okay. But, what he was trying to get at is, kind of what we expect, right? That the Celtics here are so talented, right? And so good that you don't need to force anything, right, David? If you're Brown and Tatum, you kind of just need to let the game come to you. Tonight, it felt like they didn't do that.
Right. I mean, when they're taking 55 shots between the two of them, definitely, I think that speaks for itself. Just miscommunications too. Like on the first offensive possession, I think Holiday or White tried to float a pass to Brown in the post, and like his back was turned to him, and I think Tatum got a little bit flustered from that point early in the game when he took an elbow to the chin or the jaw or whatever. Again, I think it's just a one-off, but yeah, it definitely seemed like absolutely they tried to take a lot of the weight on their shoulders
Right.
offensively. And that's when the Celtics honestly are at their best, is when they're passing the ball around. We've seen some great ball movement so far this season when they've utilized all 4 or 5 players on the court.
And I'm not too surprised by this, quite frankly. I think this type of game from Brown and Tatum was kind of needed. For Missoula to kind of look at them and say, listen, guys, deep breath, take a second, right? Because there's so much, there feels like for these two in particular, there's so much to prove this year for these guys, right? Even though there shouldn't be, and it's unfair that they feel like that, it feels like to them, this year is the year they go back to back and they get on their revenge tour, and Tatum wins the MVP, and Brown makes all NBA first team and is a starter, and right? And they prove everyone wrong, right? And in theory, that's right. But the best way to shut everyone up is just to win. And I think that is kind of what Missoula is going to get at. And I have so much trust in Joe. And I wasn't too mad with what I saw out of Joe tonight from a coaching standpoint. I would have liked for him to be like, all right, guys, let's get to the paint, drive the paint. But who knows? He might have said that, and the players didn't execute it. So I'm not looking to point the finger at Joe tonight. But from a Brown and Tatum standpoint, just a horrific game out of the two of them. A player, however, who came up big on both ends of the floor tonight, guys, was Peyton Pritchard. And this dude is continuing to show us that he's going to play real minutes and he's going to play key minutes. And we started the 6th Man of the Year campaign for Peyton Pritchard, and he's continuing it to bring it on. Tonight, he didn't have it from behind the arc, right? 4 of 11, from behind the arc, 5 of 14 from the floor. But he showed us something else. Defensively, he picked up Halliburton full court in that later half of that fourth quarter, guys, and gave Halliburton a real hard time, David. When you look at a guy like Pritchard, something I say, if you watch these shows, you know it. What else are you doing for me? If you're not scoring, what else is it? Tonight, Pritchard gave you something else, and that's new for him. How big is it when you see a guy like Peyton Pritchard have such an impact on the defensive end of the floor?
Oh, I mean, it's huge. And it's honestly just a mental blow for the other teams in terms of defensive game planning. I mean, you know what the Drew Holidays, the Derek Whites, the Tatum Browns, anyone else on the floor can do defensively. But when a guy like Pritchard is bringing it defensively as well, it's insane. And I mean, I won't lie, like I've definitely come around on Pritchard a lot the last few years. I thought that, he was just like the cute little draft pick in 2020. And like he was, a nice little blip in the system in that COVID season. And then, he was fun off the bench the year he went to the finals against the Warriors. But like, I kind of written him off when we signed when we traded for Brogdon. And I just remember that game against the Nuggets a couple years ago where he like pickpocketed DeAndre Jordan in the paint. He got like 3 offensive rebounds over Jordan. And I'm like, okay, this guy is really, really hustling and like earning all his minutes. And that's when he was like basically out of the rotation and not getting any minutes at all. And then we gave him a chance last year, and obviously he's going to have a big role again this year. And yeah, I just respect a guy like him who can honestly just rest on his morals offensively, a guy who can shoot at a clip from 3 at a respectable rate, do some decent playmaking, but he's also bringing the heat defensively. Right. And tonight, I just thought it was awesome in overtime too, like you just talked about, where he picked on the Halliburton matchup, and he got 2 free throws at the line inside the game. So loving what we're seeing from Peyton Pritchard, and he gave us a generational meme from the Bucks game with Doc Rivers having his hands on his knees. So
No doubt
that too.
about it. No doubt about it. And that's Pritch is. We talked about this. I talked about this on the podcast last night. If you haven't listened to it, go give it a listen. It was a great listen. Or watch. It's on the YouTube channel as well. Pritchard is in the category of Jaylen Brown. In a sense, right? What I mean by that is he's gotten better every year he's been with us. He has always just improved, whether it's his 3-point shot, whether it's his playmaking, whether last year he took like this massive stride in his offensive rebounding and he just became this huge momentum guy for Boston where he checked in and he was just going to make all the little plays and do the little things. And this year, it feels like he's taken that step to Mr. Reliable off the bench, your go-to guy. A heavy thing I was worried about with Boston is they didn't have that guy off the bench this year, and which is why I was so high on Lonnie Walker coming in because I thought he could be that guy. But maybe I see Brad Stevens' direction now where you kind of have that with Peyton Pritchard. And, that's a good sign for the Celtics fans. Now, Franco, another sign, I wouldn't call it a good sign, but another sign is these big men. With Porzingis out, we're seeing the Celtics big man really struggle here on the defensive end of the floor. Tonight, we saw all four of them play. Kaida, Tillman, Kornet, Horford. It felt like none of them had it until Neemias Kaida checked in the game in that fourth quarter, and he really set the tone defensively as a rim protector for Boston. When you look at Boston's big men, Franco, what direction does Joe Mazzulla need to go within getting them right on a game-by-game basis?
On a game-by-game basis, it is going to be purely based on matchups, I feel like. I think being able to have minute management with the centers and being able to piece them together.
Right.
Obviously, Allen, Tillman having a little bit more flexibility. You can put them in that power forward position next to Kornet and Kaida. I think that Kaida stepping up tonight, I believe that did Kornet fell out tonight? Was that the reason that Kaida came in?
No. Kornet did not foul out tonight.
Okay,
It
so
was
that.
sorry. It was
Sorry.
just basically to it was basically just to switch things up early in the fourth quarter. That's what we put Kaida in.
Yeah, and I think that Kaida is one of those players that is a very raw talent. I think he can become a pivotal piece and can be a sustainable backup center in the NBA throughout his career, wherever that may be. And I think that he is just going to, with reps, which he got in Maine, he's going to be able to fill in that position. And it's something that Luke Kornet brings a little bit more IQ, but you feel a little bit more of a dominant presence when Kate is in the paint, and because he's been able to box out much better, and you can feel the athletic advantage he has.
If there's one thing I'm looking from Joe Mazzulla, it's you have to know which big man to go to without Porzingis in the lineup. You know you're going to start the game with Horford, right? Unfortunately, Horford's at an age where he's not going to give you much in games like Indiana, right? Against the younger teams who are fast-paced and really like to run and gun and are going to attack the slow guy. Like, he's not going to have that. I'm not happy with what I'm seeing from Tillman as well. Tillman looks a little slow. He looks a little lost out there on offense. I'm not there yet on Tillman. Doesn't mean he can get there, but right now I'm not there. Kornet, I think, is a great matchup big man. I think when you have a matchup where Kornet can kind of play his game on offense and doesn't need to worry about too much rim protecting on defense, there's your guy. Tonight, my point being, you need to know, all right, tonight it's Kaida. Tillman's not seeing the floor. Tonight, it's Tillman. Kornet's not seeing the floor, right? It's just you have to know. And, if you're going to do that, then do that. Because tonight you tried out, Kornet, and it wasn't a Luke Kornet game. And then you tried out Tillman, and it just wasn't a Tillman game. And it felt like I would have liked to see Mazzulla kind of understand, all right, I know who to go to right now. I know what big man I want. It's something to monitor, though, because it's a problem, and it will be a problem. It's going to cost the C's a couple of games here without Porzingis. They don't really have a rim protector right now, and it's something I think teams are going to look at and think to themselves, all right, the key right now to beating Boston without Porzingis is run them off the 3-point line and attack. On the flip side, David, defensively, we're not seeing what we need to see from the guards, it feels like. And we talked about this again, me, Justin, and Ian in the podcast, where Boston's 4-1. They were 4-0 at the time when we talked about it. But defensively, guards are getting what they want. And when you don't have that backup help, you need as a guard to keep your man off your line. You have to keep your man in front of you. They haven't done that yet, David. In where are you at from a defensive standpoint with this team?
Yeah, so I'll have to check the updated numbers, but heading in, we were 12th or 13th ranked defensive rating, which honestly, as you were talking about, is definitely lower than our expectations, given the names we have in our roster. And that's honestly something I've noticed too a lot in these first few games. Is I know Jordan Poole was blowing by Holiday a lot in that Washington game. Derek White's gotten blown by a few times so far this season, and yeah, I think we all knew that this was going to be a problem against a team like the Pacers, who I like to say play like a East-West offense where they just run around, just try and wear you out, and then leverage that to create better shot opportunities. So, we'll see. I mean, again, this is all just like hypotheticals, only 5 games into the season. But yeah, I have noticed them all kind of looking a little bit a step too slow. It seems like Celtics games, at least to start the year, are just slower than usual. Not that I'm complaining. I mean, I'm not complaining with us being 4-1, but yeah, just some things. I mean, I don't want to start any conspiracy theories or anything, but like, it looks like Drew Holiday has more like padding or protection on one of his legs than he has in prior seasons, or at least last year. I mean, he is going to be almost 35. Like, I don't want to say he's injured or anything, but like, I don't know. Yeah, they just all kind of look a step slow out there. I mean, we have the majority of the team has played a lot of basketball in the last like 4 months, dating back to, an 8-month campaign last season in the Olympics. So maybe they're just going to take a little bit longer to get their legs under them, especially with not all of them playing a lot in the preseason. But yeah, just something to monitor, I'd say, through the first like quarter of the season.
Drew Holiday is a name that's worth mentioning tonight. 25 minutes from Drew. In this year, he's looked really slow. And that's a great point. Drew Holiday is now entering what I believe is year 16 for him. Obviously, age 35. He's officially an old man, right? In NBA terms, right? He's still a youthful young man in the real world. But in terms of the NBA, he's an old man. And you make a great point. I mean, here's a guy that 8-month campaign for the NBA title. He plays late into June and then picks right where he left off, in going to London, or not, I'm sorry, not London, Paris, and playing in the Olympics. And when you're 35, that's not for everybody. And I think you're kind of starting to see a little bit of age come out from Drew Holiday, Franco. And tonight, Joe pulled the plug on Drew and leaned on Pritchard, and Pritchard gave you what you needed. He played 40 minutes tonight, Pritch, which is a number you never hardly ever see him play with the full rotation there of the guards. So where are you at with Drew? Do you think it's age? Do you think he's just off to a slow start? What do you think?
I think Drew is going to find that level of consistency, and I think this is not something that raises my eyebrows. This is something that a stat line we have seen throughout the regular season of last year with Drew Holiday, a quiet night, not being able to score. We have seen that little slow down on the defensive side and being able to match up, but that IQ will always be there. And I think that as the road to the playoffs gets long, the regular season gets longer, they're going to start to definitely feel a little bit more wear and tear on your legs, with Al and Drew being in the starting lineup, heading north of around 35 years old. I think that's something that's going to have to be monitored. And that would have been one of the luxuries of having a Lonnie Walker on the roster, so those minutes ease up for uh,
Right.
White and Holiday, so they can have a few extra minutes on the bench to recollect. But I think that it will be something that will be leveled, and we obviously know when his contributions come in the most.
Without a doubt. And tonight, the Celtics, they didn't have it. Their comeback attempt fell just shy with a Jason Tatum 3 to send the game to overtime. The Indiana Pacers stood strong, stood their ground, and they walked out of here with their second win of the season, giving Boston their first loss of the season. 135-132 was your final score here from Indiana. The Celtics are going to be back in action in a weird doubleheader mini series, a back-to-back against the Charlotte Hornets on November 1st. That first game tip-off will be at 7 o'clock on a Friday night in Charlotte, guys. The Celtics will then follow it up with a Saturday game at 6 o'clock in Charlotte as well. Tonight, Jason Tatum led the way for the Boston Celtics with 37 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists, guys. The Celtics, like I said, falling to 4-1. They are now the 2 seed officially in the Eastern Conference, with Cleveland Cavaliers picking up their 5th win of the year against the Los Angeles Lakers. However, after the final buzzer sounds against the Hornets on Friday, guys, come right back here to the Celtics Talk Weekly YouTube channel, and we will have you covered live for CTW Post Game Show. Guys, I'm Rob. Next to me is my man Franco, and right there is the writer David from Celtics Talk Weekly blog. Guys, if you haven't read his stuff, go check it out. He's putting out some amazing pregame articles, a really, really good read. I recommend it. I'm reading all of them and enjoying every single one, guys. So from all of us over here at CTW, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Cue the music, and until next time, you guys know, go C's.